Good morning and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV. As you can see, we're super excited. The holidays are here and people are traveling. A lot of people are, still working, but getting ready to travel either today or tomorrow. But then here in the nation's capital, it's quite cold and quiet at the same time, yes, but we thank God for everything, and mostly we thank God for keeping us alive today. My name is Dashan Husseina Usman.
And I am Ayubelia. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. Yes, indeed, the weather, it's cold, it's dry, and it's dusty at the same time. I mean, it's usual anyways. We always experience this. Each time it's December, and at the same time, it's also Yuletide season. And so, yes, a lot of celebrations. Most times you don't get to feel the coldness because you are in the frenzy of
being at home and doing a lot of things and all that. Like we always say, if there's no point traveling this time around, please stay at home. If there's no point going out, stay at home as well, to stay safe from the Omicron, virus out there, the COVID-19 virus out there. We're celebrating our winter, outside is cold, so just protect yourself.
Yes, and aside the Omicron, I mean, we have also issues to contend with, which is the issue of insecurity in the country, especially for those who live around the northern part of the country. It's really very, very difficult these days traveling on the roads. Somehow you just feel like you are not safe. Well, today on quite a number of things, romance gone bad between a soldier and a corps member in an NYC camp somewhere in Kwara State. We'll be having a discussion on that. And then later on the show, we'll also be talking about the COVID-19 pandemic. National Primary Healthcare Development Agency said it has become a disease of unvaccinated persons. Nigerian Medical Association will be here to give us perspectives on this. And then, of course, as usual, we'll be looking at the dailies on Daybreak this morning. Well, stay with us as we have a look at
today in history. Today, the 23rd of December in history. So today in history, 23rd of December 2000, not just 2000, but what happened, today in previous years. We apologize, but what was actually shown was the wrong today in history, but we'll definitely fix it for later. Now, the 23rd of December in 2011, Nigeria's president unexpectedly fired Farida Waziri, the female head of the lead anti-corruption agency, and appointed agency deputy Ibrahim Lamurde as the commission's acting chairman. That was actually what happened today. And in 2009, Maguindano massacre in the Philippines. In 2005, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was elected as president of Liberia. In 1976, first person to dive 100 meters in the sea without breathing equipment. That was, something to talk about back then. In 1910, the last person to be executed in Sweden. In 1909, the Wright brothers form $1 million corporation for the commercial manufacture of their airplanes. In 1968, 4 men hijacked an American plane with 87 passengers from Miami to Cuba. In 1980, in Europe's biggest earthquake since 1915, 3,000 people are killed in Italy. And finally, in 1992, the first smartphone, IBM Simon, introduced at Comdex in Las Vegas, Nevada. And that actually, pushed forward the evolution of smartphones and digital devices.
Very interesting facts there for us today. If you remember the controversial, I would say, dismissal of Farida Waziri, back then, it's something that we remember today. And so the fight against corruption has come through a whole lot of journey. We've seen different heads, of that agency come and go. And sometimes in controversial circumstances, the way they live. But also, talks about the process of selecting, people that head that office. I think for the first time, at the moment, we are having a police officer who
who's heading,
is a career police officer who was eventually a non-police officer rather.
Okay.
It has always been police officers who head the commission. But for the first time, we're having someone who has not been a police officer actually rising through the ranks in the commission to become the EFCC. Okay. Experts believe that is for the better.
Yeah, and there has actually been, a sense of stability. Has there been any form of, what do you call it, anything?
Controversy.
Yeah, controversy.
Well, not that we know so far, at least no any controversy for now.
So
we do not pray for controversies.
The experts were right,
but,
either way.
I mean, the only one that looked like a controversy was when the chairman was appointed himself. Okay. There were some, of course, speculations in different quarters about how he himself was part of, some kind of arrangement to sell off, forfeited assets to some of his cronies and all of that. But that was dismissed by the commission, and that never happened. So those were the just little speculations here and there. But we'll continue to forge ahead, in Nigeria.
Yes, and then in 2005, when the first female president was elected in Liberia.
Very,
Do
very
we see that happening
historic,
in Nigeria?
I would say. Well, we hope to get there. We're inching closer, I would say, in the sense that more awareness is being created, and more women are hopefully going to be participating
in politics,
in politics
hopefully.
And all of that. So eventually we'll get there. Maybe someday, I don't know, but eventually we may get there, because the paradigm is shifting, and the truth is, no matter how long it's going to take, it will happen.
I would actually want to be alive to see that happen. Yes.
All right. Well, let's take a quick breather now, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at the stories that made the headlines on our newspapers today. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look like this,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. Well, to review the papers with us in the studio, we have Hamza Idris, the general editor, Daily Trust newspaper. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. All right, now let's take a look at these headlines, beginning with the Daily Trust. The lead story, which is about almost the only story on the front page this morning, because the front page is actually taken over by the expected visit of the president to Maiduguri for commissioning of some projects at the University of Maiduguri, International Auditorium, Distance Learning Center there. You could see the pictures there showing you some of the projects done, funded by Alhaji Muhammadu Indimi. Now, the story at the top there says electoral bill, how governors coddled senators, moves to override Buhari. I think that's that for Daily Trust today.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to Guardian newspaper. And the lead story there says COVID-19. Nigeria records highest single-day infection. And we have some writers here. 4 deaths, 2,123 new cases as Yuletide festivities heighten. NAFDAC and PHCDA destroy over 1 million expired vaccines. Delta State reports 395 cases of Omicron variant. Vaccine inequality. Booster programs will prolong pandemic, WHO laments. Concerns as Nigeria may need a 4th dose of vaccine to ensure protection from Omicron. And finally, experts insist country remains vulnerable to massive 4th and more waves. All right, we also have a story here on page 5 that says bandits abduct 70 traders on Kaduna-Kano Road. Government unveils 5-year blueprint to refocus economy. We also have Senate passes raises budget by 800 billion naira to 17.126 trillion naira. And then gunmen kill 7 persons, abduct 5 women in Katsina. And right at the footnotes there, you'd see electoral bill. Senate halts action to override Buhari to consult reps. And these are all the stories we have on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
All right. Now, the next paper, The Nation, is next. We take a look at the lead story that says Electoral Act, why senators dropped plot against Buhari. The writer says, Buni, 5 governors pulled last-minute strings. Senate to consult reps on next action. At the top there, you'd see residents protest plan demolition of Lagos estate. 70 traders feared kidnapped on Kaduna Highway. 41 major generals among 117 elevated officers. Senate okays Buhari's 276.8 billion naira environment request. And then you'd also see the pictorial there showing you the launching of the National Development Plan yesterday by the President alongside some members of his cabinet and Governor of Kebbi State. These are the major stories on The Nation this morning.
All right, and final paper we have on our list is Punch newspaper. The lead story here says Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Senate backs down on overriding Buhari, refers bill to constituents. And then you have writers here that say, we will consult our constituents during recess. They have a role to play, says Lawang. And Buhari rejected bill in order to rig 2023 poll. APC plans to manipulate results, and this is coming from PDP. That's what they're saying. You can find details of that story on page 2. We also have petrol subsidy rises, hit 1.16 trillion naira in 11 months. We also have National Assembly to transmit 17 trillion naira budget to Buhari today, says Lawang. 12,547 patients in isolation centers. COVID-19 cases increased by 847.44%. And, you know, that's from the 500% that was recorded in on Monday. Now, verification. FG introduces digital token to replace 11-digit NIN. And then if you go to the bottom, you'd actually see stories. Ayu Wike boasts of PDP capacity to win 2023 presidency. DSS operative kills admission seeker. Suspect released after order from above. And then you'd find a pictorial of passengers traveling for the Christmas and New Year holidays at the Murtala Muhammad Airport in Ikeja. And this particular pictorial, I think, is from Wednesday. Yes. These are all the stories we have on Punch newspaper today.
Well, very interesting there. I'm just looking at the pictures at the airport in Lagos, and I'm imagining the chaos, you know, that is likely going to happen there. If you look at everyone wants to travel at the same time. Yeah, it is at this moment that sometimes you find racketeering. You know, some of these of staff of the airline companies
buy the tickets and resell at a higher price.
I mean,
yes.
Well, let's get perspectives from our reviewer in the studio, Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper. Thank you for joining us again.
Welcome once again.
Good morning.
Well, let's begin by saying compliment of the season.
Thank you.
And, well, quite a lot, really. There have been reactions following the decision of the lawmakers yesterday, rather the president, to withhold assent on the Electoral Amendment Act. And that conversation is still there, dominant on the front pages this morning. Let's get your own perspective on this electoral amendment.
It's about 2023, and most of the drama took place at the Senate. On Tuesday, many people thought that the senators will override the president, but midway, you know, they suspended everything and said by Wednesday they will come up with something concrete in respect to that. But from what we gathered, most governors, high-profile personalities did not sleep. Yes, on Tuesday, that there was enormous pressure on members of the Senate to have a rethink to postpone further deliberations on the bill until after the Yuletide period. But the fear is that maybe by next year, everything about the bill will be over. It's because a lot of interest, but civil society organizations, well-meaning Nigerians, and even keen observers outside the shores of Nigeria are really calling on the legislature not to drop the bill. What they are saying is, if you have an issue, there is no need for you to throw away the bathwater with the baby. Yes, I think overall, the interest is about strengthening the democracy, giving opportunity to Nigerians, giving opportunity to relevant stakeholders like INEC to be able to fine-tune the electoral process. And there are many provisions therein. But the major problem for now, you know, a few months ago, it was about electronic transmission of results, as if Nigeria will come down completely that time. But at the end of the day, it has come to stay in the bill. But now that we have another issue of direct primaries, it is the contentious issue now. And the president said, giving just one option for political parties, that the only way to select their flag bearers is should be through direct primaries, whereby all members of the party will have a stake. He said it has many implications, both economic and security, and that was the reason he gave, based on advice by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. And so he now declined to assent to the bill. So the issue now is that Nigerians are calling on the National Assembly to, you know, maybe tinker or tweak that aspect, and then maybe restore what we had before. It's just about three options, you know, the direct primaries, indirect primaries, and then consensus. And that is it.
All right. Well, some are already feeling that there's some ploy to drag the whole process. I mean, looking at between now and 2023, how much time do we actually have? That some of the arguments is that the president had 30 days, a whole 30 days, to decide either whether to withhold assent or to give his assent. And then he waited until when it is after the 30 days. And then nobody heard anything until we now, you know, saw that a letter was read from him at the chambers regarding that. So there are speculations about the fact that, look, this is a smokescreen, even by the lawmakers, that there is no genuine interest to actually bring about these reforms, you know, electorally and all of that. So how much of time do we have? Are we working with time?
There are many options. There are many options, but it is only commitment and then the will by those that matter to address this. Let me give you an example. During the debate on the petroleum bill, you know, there were some issues. But when the legislators took it to the president and he made some observations, they said, no, you can sign, and then maybe after a few days you can write for some adjustments, because you have that enormous power to ask the National Assembly to amend sections that you think are not good.
So one would ask the question, why didn't that happen with the electoral?
That is the politics we are talking about. And as I said, many people are calling on the legislators to insist, because while the president has, power to veto, they also have powers to override him. And based on your question, it is the Speaker of the House of Representatives who actually introduce, or rather fine-tune, if you like it, that aspect of direct primaries. But people are saying, okay, democracy entails options. So in that regards, probably the legislators did not also get it right to say all political parties must adopt.
But was there even any need to do that in the first place?
Well, you see, many Nigerians have been crying that this the issue of delegate system, where you have fewer people, taking decision on behalf of the larger population, was not giving the desired result, because those delegates tend to be compromised.
Yeah, but parties can actually conduct direct primaries, even before this whole brouhaha.
Even the election, even in Lagos, that was what happened. Yeah, that was what happened. That was what happened in Lagos. And you see, there are some governors that are not really averse to direct primaries, yes. But there are some who believe that it will cost more money and then resources, and it will be chaotic, because most political parties don't even have authentic register of their members. So at the end of the day, you might not get the desired result. These are some of the issues that they are raising, and they said, okay, why not allow the multiple options so that each state or each local government or each ward, can decide on the mode to adopt in selecting their leaders who will contest for election. But above all, I think the most important thing is to make sure that we improve our electoral process. You see, if we didn't get it right now, it will be tough for Nigeria in 2023, because it means many other things, many other provisions in the bill will not be used for the election, because they need to be backed by laws. And if you don't have that, it means we are going to have a repeat of some of the shortcomings we experienced during previous elections. And above all, it means after the election, the whole bill must have to be reintroduced again, which will cost taxpayers a lot of money.
So do you think some of the clauses, that are like the indirect primaries would be removed? Because we've had CSO saying they should either override the president or remove the clauses and reintroduce the bill. But even on the Punch newspaper, you have the Senate saying they have not backed down, that what they're doing is they're going on recess and they will refer the bill to their constituents.
What will the constituents say? What will they do? You understand? This is a very simple arithmetic between the legislators and the president. As I said earlier, they can advise him, even though he's aware, and his handlers should also have advised him that, okay, maybe sign this and then seek for amendment. And then the amendment, they can do it in 1 week or thereabout, to remove areas that the president, feel, that they are not favorable for the system. But as it stands, many of us have doubts that maybe by the time they come back from the recess, their attention will be taken by other issues. So that is the problem.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about another thing. There's a lot going on in the military. For instance, there's this promotion the defense headquarters. 41 major generals have been promoted, among 117 elevated officers. Let's talk about the implication of that on the fight against insecurity, if any.
It will improve their morale, because promotion all over the world is positive. You know, when you are promoted, it means you have done well. And in the military cycle, you know, theirs is regimented, it's a system. They must have passed through the rigors of their callings. They must have passed the examination set for them. But it is a very good development that you have more officers, and then I think there are others who are not on top but have also been promoted, meaning more income for them, more recognition for them. But you know, last week there were speculations that many top generals will bow out of the system, but we didn't see it yet. But obviously, you know, whenever you have some people climbing the ladder,
some are definitely
it means there are others who have reached the pinnacle and will most likely leave. But in the military cycle, unlike in the private sector, they all know when it is time for them to move on. By the time you attain certain ranks, you know, obviously that not all of you will go beyond that point, and meaning that some will go, but we don't know whether it will happen now or later.
Well, some people seem to think that these promotions have become more political.
I don't think if that is the case in the military. You can see that in other areas, but honestly in the military they have this discipline. Yes, they have procedures of promotion. Of course, you might see one or two people receiving special promotion because of gallantry, because of certain things they did. The chief of defense staff or the chief of army staff or the army council, you know, they can use their prerogative to promote one or two people, but you don't really witness, you know, promotions being done anyhow. Yes, they have serious, if there is any institution that has, you know, stand the test of time, I think, is the military. But, you know, even the police yesterday, they promoted many officers, including, you know, husband and wife, who are now commissioners of police. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll revisit that, because there's some conversations that need to be had, you know, around having couples working in the same system or environment. You know, what will prompt that discussion is the recent, I would say, detention of a soldier by the you know, army for accepting proposal by a corpsman, you know, a trainee, in the words of the army. But that's aside. Let's look at the issue of COVID-19. Yesterday we saw the destruction of over 1 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine by NAFDAC and the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Isn't it shocking that just a few weeks after these vaccines were delivered to Nigeria, and then they expired, and then they have to be destroyed just when we need more of the vaccines?
Yes, this is what the minister said. You know, most of the vaccines we are having here are donations. Very sad, are donations. So it is at the instance of the donors to send them when they feel like sending, and then even the protocol involved in transporting the vaccines. But right from the word go, they said they have short lifespan, because they will expire. So the expectation was that once they are delivered, they should be administered. Yes, but you can see the serious apathy. Up till now, not more than 2% of Nigerians that they are supposed to be vaccinated have been vaccinated. People are not forthcoming. So for me, even the issue of democratization of it has been democratized already. We are just making noise. People saying that the advanced society, the advanced world, they have not democratized. What kind of democratization are we talking about? When, if you walk into most of the government facilities, the vaccines are there, but people are not willing to go because many Nigerians, including many who are advocating for the vaccines to be taken, have not taken.
Okay, now I actually know
but that's quite ironical.
The recent wave of flu that went around the whole country would have actually prompted a lot of people to go get the vaccine. But don't you think that reports of most of these vaccines being expired, would actually, make them relax and not want to, get vaccinated?
No. If you go to supermarket now, if you take a tin of milk, you will see there is expiration date there. But you realize that the attrition rate is very low because people buy milk, people buy cornflakes, people buy many other commodities because they trust them. But this one, there is no trust. There is mutual suspicion between the people and the leadership. And that is why many people are not willing to go for the vaccine. You see people having flu, they will say it's normal mora. It's normal. It's normal cold. It's very sad. It's very sad that up till now, less than 2%. So you can imagine.
Well, another thing, I think a lot of people don't even want to get tested, even if they have like a cold or something. And I think there was a time where there were reports going around that even if you go get tested, even if it isn't COVID, they will say it's COVID. The hospitals will say it's COVID. You tested positive. So
yes, we are doing an investigation as we speak, and we'll come up with a story along that line. Yes, including many people who are circumventing the process to get qualified for some privileges. Ordinarily you cannot travel without being vaccinated. You cannot travel without getting tested. But many people have been traveling without getting the vaccine, without even testing, but you see them with the papers in their hand.
They have the certificates.
They have the certificate, and that is why we are not trusted. Yes, you see Nigerians being subjected to ridicule. Yes, when they go to other countries because they have a rival that we don't subject ourselves to the test, and it's embarrassing. Yes.
I actually saw a video of some Nigerians who, went to Ghana, and they were, they just, I don't know.
They actually,
they
from
tested
what we,
negative,
yes, from what we had
traveling.
in the video, they are alleging that there's some kind of
conspiracy,
hanky-panky
yes.
being played, because they feel that just the previous day they were tested and they were confirmed
twice,
negative.
2 different places.
And then the next day, they are said to be positive again. So
and they have to pay $700 or something.
Yes, for staying
for
in
isolation, for staying
center.
in.
So there is the politics part of the COVID-19 all over the world. There is the politics part, but I think we should all be committed because it's a serious problem. People are dying of it, and many people are also dying here, but simply because we don't do autopsy, yes, we don't do autopsy, and that is why you see people saying he died a natural death or things like that.
But if it were to be investigated, you would find that it's actually COVID.
Yes, it's COVID.
Well, let's take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll be continuing our discussion on the program. Please stay with us.
The board and management of Media Trust Limited invites the general public to its annual Daily Trust Dialogue, themed 2023, The Politics, Economy and Insecurity. Date, 20th January 2022. Location, NAF Conference Center and Suites, Abuja. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Chairman of the occasion, former Head of State, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, GCFR. Guest Speaker, Governor of Kaduna State, Malan Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai. Guest Speaker, Governor of Ebonyi State, Engineer David Umahi. Guest Speaker, former Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mrs. Ifueko Omoigui Okauru. Moderator, Executive Director, Daria Media Nigeria Limited, Kadariya Ahmed. The event will be transmitted live on Trust TV, and all participants must observe COVID-19 protocols and wear their face masks.
Welcome back. You're still watching Trust Daybreak on Trust TV. All right, so we're still on newspaper review, and we still have Hamza Idris in the studio. Right now, we want to go back to petrol subsidy. And on Punch newspaper, this particular story says that the petrol subsidy rises and it hits 1.6 trillion naira in 11 months. And we also have, another story that says the federal government rakes in 2.56 trillion naira from petrol, kerosene, diesel sales in 13 months.
Yes.
Let's have your thoughts on that.
It's a ritual now. Yes, the issue of under-recovery, subsidy and all that. Nigeria will continue to record that maybe up to the middle of next year, when the federal government hopes to remove the subsidy. Yes, and by that time, it means this money, as they said, will be channeled to other endeavors. Yes, we'll pay more by the time the subsidy is removed. But in our paper today, we have like 3 or 4 stories relating to the leakages in the distribution of the oil, you understand? From our findings, is like Nigeria is subsidizing its neighbors, because as I said, the story we have today, hundreds of jerry cans filled with diesel and some with petrol were concealed and about to be taken out of Nigeria to neighboring countries. So we believe that even after the removal of subsidy, when Nigerians will be paying 300 or more, it means the money or the price will double in neighboring countries, in Niger, Benin, Cameroon, Chad. And then the racket will continue. So the best thing, I strongly believe, is to find a way of blocking the leakages to stop smuggling. Yes, because when we succeed in stopping smuggling, the subsidy, as you call it, or under recovery, or even the consumption will go down. Because if you discuss with actors in the petroleum industry, they will give you, the statistics of the volume or the quantity of the products that, go out of our depots and all that. but they would not give you the exact figure of what is consumed in Nigeria. So it means there is a serious problem. And this will not be solved. Nigerians will continue to pay more unless we are able to block the leakages, to stop smuggling, to ensure that what comes out of the refineries or the depots or whatever, is either consumed in Nigeria, or if it gets out, the right value comes back to the coffers of the government.
There's actually been a lot of confusion when it comes to subsidy. In the past, we've had governments come in. Some would include subsidy, some would remove subsidy. There's been a back and forth. And like you said, when subsidy is removed, Nigerians will end up paying more for fuel and other, products. Will the economy have improved by then? Because as it is right now, a lot of Nigerians are suffering.
Yes, that is the prayer, and the anticipation is by the time the subsidy is removed, some modular refineries will have come on board. The much anticipated Dangote refinery will also be ready, which means we will not be importing. Why it is expensive is because we import it. And it's very sad. We have this for how many years? Since before independence. That was when Nigeria started an oil exploration. And it's a shame that up till now we didn't get it right. And I think among all the oil producing countries, only Nigeria is now importing substantial part of the refined petroleum. And that is why our foreign earning is really suffering, because this 1 point something trillion is under recovery, meaning it is being deducted at source, that after selling the crude oil, the NNPC will take enough to import the refined product. Yes, instead of the whole money coming back to Nigeria, assuming we are refining it here.
Now, we seem to run a risk of considering this Dangote refinery as one magic one, that once it comes on stream, then Nigerians are going to find it easy when it comes to, availability of fuel and all of that. What happens to fixing our own refineries? What does it actually even take to get those refineries back? Because we've been talking about fixing those refineries for as long as I can remember.
Well, they have given a contract for the Wari refinery, right? Yeah. So we are waiting. And they announced that they will also fix Kaduna and Port Harcourt refinery. Just last week, we sent our reporters to go and see the level of progress, if there is any, in Kaduna. We are waiting for their findings. In Nigeria, we are very good in making declarations, but when it comes to execution, that is where the problem lies. Just yesterday, there was a meeting of ministers of oil-producing companies, and they were lamenting that foreign investors are withdrawing their support for the oil sector, for greener energy, and that is very dangerous, you see. And I don't think they should be lamenting, because how on earth will you keep expecting foreigners to come and invest in what is, in your doorstep? Nigeria, Angola, what have you, almost all the developing countries that have the petroleum resources, they rely or depend on foreign investors, which is very sad. So I think it's high time for our leaders to really get serious in terms of investment, in the petroleum sector.
All right, thank you so much. I think with this, we will be wrapping up the dailies today. Thank you so much, Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust, for joining us.
Thank you, Hussein.
All right, we'll go on a quick break and we'll be back with our first discussion. Stay tuned.
Maiduguri City has been in total blackout for a year. All efforts to fix the power installations that link the state to the national grid continue to suffer disruption from the dreaded Boko Haram group. The state government early this month had promised Maiduguri residents electricity restoration in 30 days' time, and until recently, there was a brief flash of electricity in some parts of the capital.
A lot of people come to me and told me that they spend the night with electricity. The light has returned to some areas, like Lunkutu area and some part of Gomari. We have been suffering. It stopped a lot of works. Many things stopped working because our people are suffering. Especially we students, it helps us to read at night sometime.
Yes. I heard that when I went to camp, they repaired the light and less than a month they destroyed it again. But we are happy now. The light is back. So we are hoping to get it in our area too. It's not easy. It's not easy to charge phone, to watch movie and other things. So it's not easy, but we have been coping though. But it's not easy.
I don't see any light, so there's no light in Maiduguri. Over, let me say, it's getting to a year now. We have not seen any light in Maiduguri. Television, because of this. In fact, we are suffering in Maiduguri. We even tried to relocate because of this dark night. We are suffering in dark night. Let me say. Another state, there is light in their state, but here there is no light. We are not happy. In fact, more especially, I myself is not happy.
The long power outage had huge impact on business activities and forced business owners to rely on generators. Musa Buba, who runs a water sachet factory, says it has to reduce daily production because of an increase in diesel price, and the blackout is affecting supply as expected by customers.
Well, that's our real major problem, the diesel, and they have increased the price. You know, I think last month or last 2 months, we used to buy 270, 280, highest 290. But now we used to buy diesel 350 per liter. 350, and daily we used to consume 116 liters a day, making total of 40,600 naira daily. And we can't get that profit here. I heard they say that even if they bring the light, it will not reach like 5 to 6 hours a day. So maybe it will reduce something little bit. But at least if I can get 12 hours, you know, I will get something.
Residents hope that the return of electricity will remain stable and not sabotaged by external threats.
The board and management of Media Trust Limited invites the general public to its annual Daily Trust Dialogue, themed 2023, The Politics, Economy and Insecurity. Date, 20th January 2022. Location, NAF Conference Center and Suites, Abuja. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Chairman of the occasion, former Head of State, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, GCFR. Guest Speaker, Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai. Guest Speaker, Governor of Ebonyi State, Engineer David Umahi. Guest Speaker, former Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mrs. Ifueko Omoigui Okauru. Moderator, Executive Director, Daria Media Nigeria Limited, Kadaria Ahmed. The event will be transmitted live on TrustTV, and all participants must observe COVID-19 protocols and wear their face masks.
daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, we're moving straight into the first discussion on the program today and talking about love gone wrong, or should I say, a soldier has fallen, and this time around not by the bullets, but fallen in love with a core member in the NYC camp somewhere in Kwara State, and it turned out that she broke the rules. And so we'll be talking about that with a lawyer in the studio, talking about Sam Cabo. Now, a female soldier, if I may just introduce the report, she's by name Hannah Safiat, is still in detention after a video clip of her accepting a marriage proposal from a youth corps member in Kwara State went viral. Now, a military officer said that the female soldier was never arrested, but only going through a normal disciplinary measure to send a clear warning to others who may attempt to flout military rules. The soldier is accused of violating military rules and regulations. Human rights activists share their perspective on
The Nigerian army on Sunday detained a female soldier, Private Anna Sofiat A, after video clips of her being proposed to by a male corps member at the National Youth Service Corps Orientation Camp in Yikbata, Kwara State went viral on social media. The issue has stirred a lot of controversy. Some say she has the freedom to choose who she...
Now, we'll be taking our first discussion on the program. Don't forget you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. And then we've had several discussions. You can always catch up on our YouTube. And now we'll be also taking a look at this romance gone bad, if you like, about the story of a female soldier who was detained by the army for accepting proposal from a youth corps member. If you like, you would say, well, a soldier has fallen this time around, but not by the bullets, but fallen in love. And so we'll be looking at that story just by way of introduction for those who may not have heard about this story. A female soldier, her name is Hannah Safiat, is still in detention after a video clip of her accepting a marriage proposal from a youth corps member in Kwara State went viral. Now, a military officer said that the female soldier was never arrested, but only going through a normal disciplinary measure to send a clear warning to others who may attempt to flout military rules. Now, the soldier is accused of violating military rules and regulations. Human rights activists share their perspective on the issue in this report. Take a look.
On Sunday, detained a female soldier, Private Anna Sofiat A, after video clips of her being proposed to by a male corps member at the National Youth Service Corps Orientation Camp in Yikbata, Kwara State went viral on social media. The issue has stirred a lot of controversy. Some say she has the freedom to choose who she falls in love with, while others say the public display of affection is an insult to the Nigerian military. Some human rights activists also share their thoughts on the matter.
Rules are rules, yeah. They are meant to be kept, especially within the military circle and all. But in the past few years, where has those rules led us to? With the way, if you're doing something over and over again the same way and you're getting the same results, it's about time you step outside the box a bit so you get something totally different, and then see this is the era where we have to move away from the archaic way of doing things so much. We have to look at other countries and how they have handled their people. You should not just be looking at other countries, the negative parts, where maybe it favors the government. How about looking at other countries in parts where it favors the people as well? We've had so many stories around, not everybody readily wants to hear the military. It's just associated with pain, grief, agony. So it won't hurt, or it didn't hurt to see I think I read one of those posts, I saw the comments, and then people were actually really happy that, oh, so the military has a soul to read. Marriage is something that is respected anywhere, and this is a process to get into that point. So why is it such, it's such a crime that you're detaining these people when we have more serious things to think about? How about we put the same energy into fighting Boko Haram, into fighting the attacks that we have every other day on Abuja-Kaduna Road?
I think some mistakes were made, mistakes that emotions got the soldier carried away, sadly, and in uniform, she got swept by emotions and did things that their rules forbid. For instance, that's the Nigerian Army, prestigious Nigerian Army uniform she was wearing. I'm minded by the fact that emotions and sentiments here and there is such that to leave her alone, what, you know. I'm minded by that fact, and I'm minded that because we are a people mostly ruled by sentiments, this may not be a very popular position, but you see, we have to face facts. Rules are there, put in place, and the standard expected of a civilian is not the same standard expected of a soldier. Before you enlist into the army, the rules and regulations are there and you sign up to it. There is a Latin maxim in law, voluntas non fit injuria. Once you have, it simply means once you've waived your rights by signing up to the army, for instance, you really can no longer complain about the injury of you not being allowed to express yourself in the way you wish to express. There are several reasons why rules and regulations are put in place in the affair of man, especially also in the military. It is so that a certain standards of discipline and even protection of the personnel is also guaranteed.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Well, there you have it. The video there showing you that report, how activists are responding to that issue. Now, we have two lawyers in the studio. Sam Kabo is in the studio with us, and also Mary Ikoko. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Yes. Now, we'll get the legal perspectives, but let's have a sense of the argument put forward by the, well, not an argument, but the statement put forward by the army. One of them is that she is guilty of fraternizing while on duty at the official NYC camp, and is considered an amorous relationship with a trainee. Also, they said that personnel must have served for 3 years before he or she can qualify for marriage in the service, and then that means to suggest that she has not been in the service for up to 3 years. Then the statement also says that she disobeyed the Armed Forces of Nigeria standing guidelines and directives for the use of social media. Third, that's fourth. And then fourth, indulging in romance while in uniform. And then the fifth one was that her conduct was prejudicial to good order and military discipline. So these are the reasons put forward by the army for, detaining that soldier and planning to take disciplinary action against her. So let's begin with you, Sam Kabo. What are your thoughts around this particular story?
Well, let me start by giving them the benefit of the doubt. The military, the armed forces in general, is one of the most disciplined and guided institutions of the country. If you go through the Armed Forces Act, there is a law governing almost every aspect of the soldier's life. It's so detailed. Detailed in the sense that there are laws governing what you do when you are sent to a particular place. If you are acting as a sentry, if you are acting, whether or not you are guiding a place, the rules specify what to do and what not to do. It's a well detailed law, but let's make some clarifications here. I do not think that the punishment or the concerns of the military is about romance. If it is, then obviously I can't find in any of their rules a provision that prohibits romance. I would also not think that the proposal is a marriage. If you say somebody cannot get married until he's 3 years into the force, well, that's a good law, but that does not by itself prohibit a proposal. Because
having a relationship.
Yeah, no, it does not. Of course, she's first and foremost a citizen with all the rights of a citizen. She has all the rights that are provided for in the Constitution. She has to be her person, her dignity. She cannot be discriminated by virtue of her own being a soldier or whatever it is. If you can benefit from romance, you should benefit from romance because what? Like I said, she's first and foremost a citizen. If you go beyond that to say, yes, she was sent there to do an official duty and she uses official time for private purposes, you may have an argument or a case. But beyond that, you cannot say because she indulged in a romance in uniform. No, the uniform by itself does not prohibit romance. It is the official time. The official time that it should be in issue, not the uniform. You can wear the uniform at home. If you are married, it does not prohibit you from wearing it at home.
Okay, so because of time, let's quickly get the thinking of Mary on this. What are your initial reactions?
So you have a lawyer, a learned gentleman, and an educated lady. Okay. I mean, it's a beautiful profession as well that maybe very soon, sometime again, I will change another career, that career. So my initial thought when I saw, first off, when I saw the proposal, I mean, seeing a military, a person in uniform, being knelt down to a proposal is the most romantic thing I've ever seen. And I think that the Nigerian military would have just taken that in and enjoyed that victory, because all we've seen is a monstrous kind of outlook at when it comes to military. So that is one beautiful PR slant that they lost. They decided not to take on. And that's quite understandable because of, I mean, they have their set guidelines and rules and code of conduct that, you know, they must follow. Now, this young lady, I don't quite, I've tried to check around the military roles, and I haven't seen anything that really stops her from accepting a marriage proposal. But the next knack I would have around this whole thing is the PDA. Now nobody, if she had been proposed to in my time, I've been married for about 22 years, was proposed to in my time, maybe we wouldn't be here. It wouldn't have been done publicly. It would have been a more private kind of event. And again, the young man, I also see beyond what the military have cited, I also see people reacting to, now this is my personal opinion and that is how I see it, is the power differences that is being at play here. There's a power difference where it's a bloody civilian is proposing to a military, and a copper and a military woman, I'm seeing a lot of power differences here, which they can't stomach it. I may be wrong, but this is how I feel about it. The extent of, detaining her, I quite feel strongly that the punishment is not measurable. I think it's way out of just accepting a marriage proposal. That punishment, I don't know what would now happen if she steals or if she does something more grievous, I'm a bit concerned about that whole thing. And then when we talk about rules and the code of conduct for the military, I quite understand it. It's not just the military. Every organization, even the church, you can't come to, maybe you're a pastor, there are things where you are expected to dress and show up. It's in the same way in our businesses, in a corporate. There are ways you are expected to show up. There are things you're supposed to take on. There are characteristics you're supposed to wear. There are values you're supposed to project. So I think that is where the military will have their case a case here. But even in having that case, you also have to understand that there's a public that watch what you do and actions or your inactions towards everything that goes on. And then that law that they are talking about may be an archaic one. They may need to go back and review some of these things. One, I will tell you that some of our laws have been outpaced by technology. So if you look at it, that tech has made it so easy for everything to be out there. So they may need to rethink some of this law and tweak it to suit today's Nigeria or today's world. Because over time we go on seeing let's say for instance, the US military. You see them go to the war front, you see the communication between the military guys or their wives or the women and their spouses and children, their families. You see the romance that the American government tried to show the world, the human part of the military, you see. So they send bouquets of flowers or the surprise kind of parties that goes on before a military personnel returns home. They throw in some surprise and things like that. It makes the military more amiable, more lovable.
Give it a human face.
The main side of it. And I think Nigerians desire that kind of opportunity as well, so that our military will also be embraced and taken on.
Now, one of the reasons, one of the issues raised is the fact that, first of all, she flouted social media rules, and also she took advantage of a trainee. Considering the fact that the trainee is just, for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and after that he goes back to being, a civilian. But I also know that there's a rule in the military that they don't marry each other. So why is it an issue? Why is it? Because people actually seem to think that it is beyond her, wearing the uniform. Yes, I know the video actually showed the extent where he took her cap and wore her hat, and I feel that is actually wrong.
Okay. Well, you may want to respond to that before I come in.
Like a follow-up question. But really, the flaunting of social media rules, I quite get it. Every organization, like I said earlier, have their rules. So, like if you work in the intelligence office, I do not expect you to act like a Nollywood star on social media. The reasonable level of circumspect that I expect from you, you can't have it all out there. So that is one, and that is where I feel the military will have a case there. Now, when it comes to 3 weeks, and I understand the issue of taking undue advantage of someone you are to supervise. It's the same way I see, say, I like to use this analogy. So you are an au pair, a maid, in somebody's house.
Okay.
and the man of the house takes advantage of her, you know, having an affair with a maid. By law, that man should really be treated in the same way that you've taken an undue advantage of somebody under your care, under a subordinate.
But when we talk about taking advantage, is it not when the issue of a minor and
fine? That's the point I'm saying.
You know, is it let's I'm talking about the context of the core member.
You're talking about
but let's get Sakabo's thoughts.
I don't think that it is 3 weeks. 3 weeks relationship cannot just morph into a proposal. It may, but this particular case, I have a feeling, I believe they've known each other before they come.
And let's not forget that is the core member that is actually giving out the proposal here,
yes.
not the other way around.
When you're talking about fiduciary relationships, they are categorized and they are clear. For an example, they say, what do you call them? In the Catholic, the priest and the laity. Somebody comes to you, spills his or her heart to you, you owe that person a moral responsibility, you know, to take advantage of that. The teacher and the student, yes. But you made the right point. These are two adults. You understand? These are two adults, irrespective. It could be instantaneous. The fact that you are training a youth corps member does not subordinate that youth corps member to you. What we all went through National Youth Service, we went through the training. Those trainings are just about you, but passing and all of that. It has nothing to go to your conscience and your character. So that fiduciary relationship is not there. That cannot be an argument. And let me emphasize what he was saying when he tries to make the analogy of the American soldiers. The American soldiers participate in pageants, beauty pageants. They participate. One of them has even won the American beauty pageant. They participate in music competitions, rap competition, mic competition. What they try to do is to disabuse that myth that the military is all about what? War. They try to boost and push out that humanity in them to say, we're part of it. And that is the only way you could also encourage others to come into the force. If you make it so guarded, and you give the impression that this is a a Philistine institution that is all brawny and no other social aspect of it, then obviously I won't want to send my kid to it. You understand? So they are, like you said, they miss the point. An opportunity is here that you could just escalate. Push to the public to say, this is who we are. You understand? So, coming back, let me put it as a lawyer. I am saying that, except British law, the laws they have, say when you are subject to military law, there are laws concerning how you deal with the enemy, abetting, aiding the enemy. There is also law against what they call military morale. It comes to military, what would I call it now, trademark or get up, so that you don't give the impression that they are loose or whatever it is. But to me, what if it had been the other way around? A male.
In fact, we have seen pictures online.
Yes.
We have seen pictures. We have seen pictures online of couples or even male soldiers who wear their regalias, taking pre-wedding pictures, for instance.
That is
posting them on social media.
That is the pride.
That is the pride. It's a usual.
It's a matter of
That's
pride.
why I said I see power difference here, because if it was a male soldier, are we going to be having this conversation?
Okay,
because we've seen pictures of male soldiers proposed and all that, and no action was taken.
Okay, now let's also talk about the rights, the constitutional rights of the person in question. Yes, she is a soldier. Yes. There are code of conducts, operating in the military, but again, she has inherent constitutional rights of association, for instance, and all of that.
Yes.
When you juxtapose that with this code of conduct, is there a way out somewhere there?
No, there's a thin line here. You see, they say if you voluntarily subject yourself to an institution, just like so rightly said, every institutions have their laws, they have their regulations. As long as those regulations are not in conflict with the Constitution, you are bound by them. But because you have those constitutional rights, which are the base rights, every other law must get its breathing and life from the Constitution, you must point to a very specific rule that she breaches. You cannot, by your own intuition, say, I don't think this is right. The law does not contemplate, I don't think this is right. It has to be what? A specific rule, because she is trained to obey those rules. So she cannot be hard to say, oh, I did not know. No, she would know. But like I said, I've gone through the Armed Forces Act, and yes, the law gives the Armed Forces Council, the Army Council, the Navy Board, the Air Force Council to make rules for their own officers and even their ratings. They give them the power to make those rules. But those rules have to be there. It is not rule for an individual to use his own intuition or his own moral perspective. No. And that's why I said, of all the institutions, unlike the Police Act that you don't find as detailed as the military, is so detailed. Every aspect of the soldier's life is regulated by law. And that is why they have the martial courts. And that is why some lawyers could get their PhD in military law, because it's so detailed, over 400 provisions regarding the life and times of a soldier. So you cannot, like I said, I've gone through that. I did not see any of those provisions. Perhaps they have sub-rules. I'll give it to them. But to me, the substantive law is very clear as to what a soldier should do and what he should not do.
So now the military is actually concerned about deterrent, you know, for others not to also throw the same path and abuse, you know, the uniform of the military. We have a similar case some weeks ago about a comedian, an online comedian, who is also an Air Force, a naval officer, a naval officer who will usually do skits, you know, online and post them, comedy and all of that. And sometimes he even uses the uniform, and he was detained, you know, at some point. So how important it is, really, you know, as much as, yeah, we understand the context in which this, you know, the romance went wrong, you know. We also want to ensure that the military is an institution that is respected by all and not, you know, played with. So how do we
except,
that?
You see, let's define what it did. Is it odious? Is it something that it's morally blameworthy? Is it something that you will not want your child to do? Those are the questions you should ask. But just like Sir rightly said, some of these things, until they happen, the authorities would not see reason to have a rethink. The public is now defining or giving them an opportunity to redefine their moral code. The public is saying, we are okay with this. It is not in dispute. The fact that he's wearing the uniform is something we should be proud of. And I think why the thing went viral was the fact that what? People consider it to be something worthy of what? Emulation. They cannot, by themselves, say because they are a military institution, act against the public interest. No. The military is an institution of the state. It is first and foremost a property of the state, and the state is made of the people. At the bottom of the state is the people. Every other institution acts for and on behalf of the people. Yes, they are at the boundary of national security. They are the ones giving us reason to go and sleep. But they do not own us. We own them, and therefore they cannot define morals or our morals for us. For us, as individuals or as a public, we consider that a very worthy and something that we think the military should encourage. Let them encourage so that our young boys and girls, we shouldn't, as parents, find it difficult to convince our kids to join the army.
Okay.
I think that it's serving as a deterrent. If the military would want to use somebody as a scapegoat, it shouldn't be romance. It shouldn't be something of this nature. Maybe when you see a military, I've seen videos of military brutalizing and manhandling civilians. In fact, I've had that experience, and no military was detained. We've seen scores and scores of these incidents where military men in uniform, abuse civilians on our roads and our communities. Those are the people that the military should use as deterrent, and not people who are showing love, people who are accepting marriage proposals, and a young Navy officer making a skit in his uniform that projects the military in a human form, that shows that actually does good to the military. So I think they need to just retweak.
Well, maybe we should take care of the spirit of the laws or the codes in the first place, how they came about, what were they thinking, what were the rationale behind, taking a decision, say, such as, for instance, you cannot get married after joining the force except you are up to 3 years in the service and such.
I think it's discipline and to avoid distraction. They may be thinking that marriage is a distraction for an officer who is just coming into the force. But what about those who go there on short-term courses? Would they also be subject to that? Mind you, you have rules. The law allows you to go in, say, for 12 years, 18 years, 22 years, all of those ones. And you also have short-term, like a medical doctor may just say, I want to come in just for 3 years. Are you not saying within those 3 years, he cannot engage in any romance or be involved in any romantic affairs? So, like she said, they would have to take a look at those rules and see whether or not they conform with reality.
Okay, now...
my problem with this issue of having to step back for 3 years on a job is not just the military, even the banking sector, different organizations. You have to, so I think the banking sector, you have to do for 2 years. So different organizations have all these rules. But my problem with these rules is that it's set for, it doesn't have gender character. And that's a challenge, because that rule it affects the woman more than it impacts on the man. Do you tell a man not to get married? No. The man can get married, but that law is really more obvious when a woman is involved. And that is where we need to really look at it and say, you want to waste a woman's time. You are actually shortchanging a gender when you make such policies. If you're going to make policy about a military officer not getting married 3 years into service, it should be for both male.
No, it's actually for both.
It's for both.
Yes.
But you can only take effect on the woman, because if a man is married and conceals it, how do you know he's married? He's married, quite all right, but the bane of reproduction is on the wife, and that wife is not in the military. So when you make such laws, it affects the woman more than it impacts on the man. That's just
now
the point
this particular story actually brought to the fore a particular rule in the police, that says a woman is actually required to write an application, to the commissioner of police, before and he has to approve her request to even get married, so making the police a plenary guardian.
Yes, in addition to that, I recall some maybe last year or some months ago, where a policewoman was suspended or dismissed from the service
2 years ago.
for getting pregnant, getting pregnant for someone or something.
Yeah.
You know. And that happened. It also went viral just like this. You know, we were having that discussion.
That's why
so
I say
maybe we look at all of that.
All of that.
And they also have to choose. They have to confirm, choose, and make sure.
It's not just the police. A lot of these military and paramilitary agencies, you know, even the TSS, even the NIA, all of those things must happen.
Okay. Now, one other angle to the whole social media show and display of this, I tend to think that it's also partly for the safety of the person, because let's not forget that this is a security personnel working in the security sector. So, in that sense, don't you think that it's something to uphold? You know, looking at the fact that if you open yourself up to the social media space, you are exposing yourself to some sort of danger, especially in these days when we are dealing with issues of kidnapping and the rest of them.
It's an adult, it should know the consequences. In law, they say volunteer non-fit injury, meaning that you cannot complain about an injury that you voluntarily engage in and know the consequences. You know, so let's leave it to them to make their decision. We are all products of our decisions. Whoever you are today in life is based on a decision you took yesterday. So for an institution to play God over you, I don't think it's right, because what? Like I said, your constitutional rights are there, and what the Constitution tries to do is to create a buffer between you and the state or any department of the state or any institution whatsoever. You can only give this much of yourself. Those things that the law has taken away from you are there, but the ones that are preserved by the Constitution don't come under any guise, either as a superlord or a better thinker or an overseer or whatever. The law would frown at that. So let them make the decision. Yes, the only other aspect of it that may be of concern is that your relationship may not be what? Detrimental to the institution as a whole. And if they say let them do some reality check or background check over the spouse you are intending to marry, the reason is that, for an example, a police is not expected to marry a 419er or to marry an armed robber, because what? She will infiltrate the organization, and she'll be what? Very detrimental to the organization. But beyond that, let the rule be fair for both gender. Let it not be gender specific. Let it be a general one that male and female will be subjected to, not for it to be tended towards one. Because at the end of the day, once you wear that uniform, you go to work, the bullet from the other side does not pick and choose your gender. And if you go to war, for an example, the bullet from the other side will not say, I feel massive for the woman.
All right, we're actually running out of time. Let's hear your final words.
Well, I think that, like you said, I believe that every institution do have their laws and guidelines. And with what has happened, the military, yes, this young woman, this young military officer may have gone against their own rules, but you don't, the sledgehammer is quite big at this time around. So I think that the military really, even though they are empowered, I think that is one point we missed out. The officer has her constitutional rights to marry, to be involved in romantic relationship and any of that. But even that constitution has also empowered the military to make their laws. And if she signed up for those laws, she has to also come under the laws that guides the code of conduct that guides the military. But on a final note, I should think that there's a reason all of these services, critical institutions, do a kind of background check on people's spouses before you get married. And that's what he's actually gone into detail to explain. It is very important that you know who an officer is getting married to. But what we don't check is if the officer himself is the armed robber, what now happens? How do you now deal with that? But that's not saying you have an officer that is an armed robber anyway. But these are all human characteristics, and you can find them in any place in the military and all of that. So, but final word, please. This lady officer is a woman who has been proposed to, and in our culture, it is the man who proposes to the woman. A man, albeit a core member, has proposed to this sister, and she has accepted. And it is a beautiful, the most beautiful sight I've seen in recent time around Nigerian military. So let the Nigerian military really take advantage of this. It is an opportunity. It is a win for them and not something else. What they are making it is not what it should be. They should deal with the issue of their laws, do that strategically, but they should manage this better.
In other words, temper justice with mercy, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Well then, thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your perspectives with us. We really appreciate it and look forward to having you again on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, we've been speaking with Sam Cabo, a senior lawyer, and also Mary Ikoko, who said that she's learned, but not a lawyer. Thank you so much. All right, then. With that, we've come to the end of the show.
Yes, we have.
For today. You said something very, very salient in all that we've said, that we need to see more of the human face of our military. We've seen a lot of the war angle and the warriors and the fighting angle of the military. We need to see more of the human angle, and maybe it's time to tinker with the codes and the laws, guiding our forces. Thank you so much. Well, my name is Ayuba Ida, and in case you've missed, catch up on our social media platforms and also on our YouTube.
And I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Thank you so much for joining us.